In this video, we're gonna cover sweeps from the clinch. So this is not a clinch tutorial, but I think that it's important to go over some of the basics of just being inside of the clinch. So when we're practicing, even this position, we automatically get into it. I am just working with the arms right now. Notice that he is locking down my arm here. You see that kind of grip, so without it, strong. The reason for this is when you have gloves, you don't really have the use of fingers. Some commonly bad place positioning with my hands is behind the bicep, just elbow man. I have no control. I can't grab this and think, oh, I have good control. If he decides to literally elbow, I have no control at all. Up here, no control, elbow. Yeah, nothing, okay? So this is not even strong as far as moving a person around. So when I am either on the outside or the inside, I'm locking things down. From the outside, notice I scoop, kind of a C grip, get inside, and I push down. If I were to swim inside, I'm still keeping this locked down. Don't want this. This is inside position. I'm just grabbing him. Now elbow. I don't have any control here. Elbow. Yes. So this is just basics. This is not a clinch tutorial, but since we're talking about sweeps from the clinch, we have to know some basics. Very common plum or pum. Here, I have like his head. This is very common. But TJ the Thinking Man, really great, one of the best clinchers in the United States. His name is Charles Johnson. He's taught me that position, that specific position of having this is not as strong as having the arm and the head. There's more control here. You can have this lock, but this is very specific to a certain time. It's more like I'm just gonna go and knee when I have that lock. I like this lock more. We can control things. We can pin arms down. Notice how I can, even from the outside, I can pin arms down. I can control this arm more. I can use my head as control to kind of dig in. Like I said earlier, this is not a tutorial on clinching, but if you're gonna be practicing sweeps from the clinch, you have to kind of at least know some of this. If you don't know any of this, it's gonna be weird. We have the head control, we have double head control. I personally like to do this lock. We have this gable grip lock. We're cutting their heads off with the scissors, nice and strong. Notice it's connected here onto his body. I'm leveraging that as a fulcrum, nice and strong. That's another position. If he's shorter, he can get that body lock on me. So if we're grappling, that body lock is no good. I can't get lower. He can just keep kneeing me. And it's just uncomfortable in general. And as a shorter opponent, if I'm taller, I would like to be pushing him away. I don't really want to be pulling him towards me that much. It's more like I want to be keeping my distance. I want to be kneeing. I want to be attacking, okay? Here's a sweep that we're just going to talk about from a shorter person's position. I'm not shorter, but I'm going to just demonstrate the sweep. We'll go here. If I'm locked in here, all I have to do, the principles we talked about earlier, push, pull, bridge. So as I'm here locked in, I just have to take the angle here. Notice from here, I basically got the bridge down. When I push here, you notice I'm just buckling his knee a bit. Hips nice and tight. And then when I pull across my body, it's very difficult. Like the example that we gave before, if I was on all fours behind him and just pushed him over. So this is what that trip looks like, or the sweep. I'm here, let's say we're clinching, and I'm here, I'm trying to get position, and I landed this, now I'm in tight. Notice how I'm not loose. Boom, I'm pulling him to my body. Notice where my leg is. I'm pushing this leg in, and I'm pulling him. So from this position, we're clinching here. Boom. I'm just popping him over. And this works really well because when I have him close, it's already hard to stay standing. I'm locking him down. So I have him close enough, he's locked in. Pulling him to my body, using my upper body to bend his body over his spine. You see that? It's already uncomfortable. Then when I take the position with my feet, boom, notice how I'm already behind him, and then he just tips over. Very easy sweep to do. But we also have that sweep that I taught earlier in the trip trifecta. There's so many sweeps that we can do inside, but they go off of the principles of the push, pull, bridge. Even here, you know, like I don't have to have this arm or the inside control. I literally can pull, let's say I have outside control. From here, I can do the same exact thing. Sorry, take a new angle. I can be out here, I can be in here, doesn't really matter. I'm outside. If he gets stiff, I'm just pulling and bridging here. Same thing. You know, it's endless, really. You can make up all kinds of sweeps based off of these principles. It's not that hard to get creative. If you just watch a 5-minute highlight video on sweeps and you try to look for these certain principles, you'll start to see that they all have something in common. Some sweeps have 2, some sweeps have 1. If somebody's really off balance, like, just let me get outside control here. Like, let's say his foot's here, he's super off balance, he's pushing a lot. Like, he's in here, he's pushing a lot. I literally can pull him off balance. Maybe the sweep is not completed there, but now let me add the bridge. I'm here, he gets in, he swims into the inside. Boom! I can land that. So this is from the clinch. I do think it's important to train the clinch a lot, so that you feel comfortable in these positions and you feel comfortable transitioning from one spot to another, because it's gonna add so much to your game, and there's so many sweeps available from the clinching position, especially if people aren't good at it. Another little additional note is to make sure that you're not in your fight stance. Usually a lot of people stand in their fight stance inside of a clinch. You see how off balance he really is here? So even, this is great control, you always want inside, and all I have to do if he's here is just pull him over. I literally can just pull him. It's ridiculous actually. I can even go from outside, which is not a very strong position, and I can pull him. This is actually a very bad stance. So when you're clinching, keep your feet nice and strong, keep your legs activated. Notice how he's squared up in this position. Show him real quick, pull him here, yes. As opposed to fighting stance. So when you see people like that, it's really easy to get the sweep. You can just literally pull them over their leg. It's not very hard. But this covers the basics of the sweeping from inside the clinch. Remember, always be looking for these concepts applying: the push, the pull, the bridge, the trip trifecta. You'll see it in every single sweep, especially the really great sweeps. And like I said, you don't necessarily have to have all 3, but when you do have all 3, it's so hard to defend against. This really makes the trips so easy to pull off, and really you should be looking for more effortlessness. If you feel like, I'm trying to trip, I'm like, you know, like that's the timing is wrong. So you need to make sure that the timing is correct when you're sweeping, especially when we're inside of this clinch range. If he's pulling away from me, go back, step back. The sweeping is harder to do. You know, a lot of times if I'm gonna push, he pushes back, right? So once I start pushing him, he starts pushing back into me. Once I feel that initial change of pressure, I'm like, okay, time to go. Because I feel like, oh, he's leaning. I'm just gonna adjust and help him basically meet the floor by leaning into me too much. And once you start to feel the rhythm and the timing of it, which is why in the first trip, I told Brian, lean into me a bit, just for the sake of, this is what I want to get used to the feel of. When I push into him, he's pushing back into me. I'm like, oh, so that moment, so check this out. He don't push back into me yet, I push, boom. At that moment is when I've timed the sweep. When he comes in, I'm like, okay, now he's already going forward. If I just adjust and I pull, at that moment that he's coming forward towards me, it's easy to get this sweep. That's when it becomes effortless. If you are having a person pulling away from you, and you're trying to do a sweep where you have to pull him into you, this is harder, especially if he's stepping back. So let's start here and just keep stepping back. It doesn't have the same effect. I can't get that sweep. So don't look at sweeping as a power move. Sweeping is a finesse move. And every good sweeper, any person who's good at tripping is just really like good at timing. They're good at making their body work at the same time. And the stiffness that I was talking about, it's easy to pull somebody when they're stiff. I've demonstrated this in other training, but check this out. Nice and loose, just pull me. So when you get somebody stiff, whether it be because you off balance them, whether it be because you use some jerky movement, but once they stiffen up, I cannot resist that. The only way to resist this is to relax. But as soon as he gets me more stiff, he pulls my arm, boom. And that's how we get people to fly into the elbows or fly into the sweeps. We'll sense that though. You know, a lot of grapplers can close their eyes and they can grapple and feel their way around. And that's essentially what we're doing here. We're doing stand-up grappling. And so it's not much different for people who are used to the BJJ, we're used to wrestling, it's used to judo. It's very similar concepts here. So this is sweeps from the clinch.